are going to move in an accelerated and reinforced manner, throw them on their back foot. We have already shifted from attrition tactics where we shove them from one position to another in Iraq and Syria to annihilation tactics where we surround them. Our intention is that the foreign fighters do not survive the fight.
Well, we just heard Defense Secretary James Mattis, his new goal to kill ISIS militants rather than just forcing them to retreat. This as U.S.-backed Iraqi forces push into Mosul to liberate the remaining ISIS-controlled districts of the city. I'm joined now by Walid Phares. He's a Fox News national security and foreign affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So, as you heard him speaking there, he said moving from attrition to annihilation. And what do you take that to mean?
Heather, the shift that is implemented now by Secretary of Defense Mattis basically is a change of direction in how we fight ISIS, in the sense that their military machine should not survive. So we're not pushing them from Mosul to go to another city, from Iraq to go to Syria or other way. So what he's trying to do is basically to break that machine so there will be no surviving institution or cells that could regenerate in the future.
So how do you do that? What are the annihilation tactics that would be used?
Basically, increase of air power, increase of all the other, arms and possible tactics to make sure that they are encircled and they're not going to flee to any other area. But there are two things to consider. This is a change of tactics. What we need to look at is a change of strategy as well, in the sense that we need to make sure that those who are going to be in charge of the areas that ISIS is going to be evacuating are not going to regenerate another ISIS. So that's a very important point, and who's going to help us with it. And the second point, quickly, is basically making sure that the ideology is not going to survive, not just the weapons.
All right, so let's go back to both of those things you just mentioned. I mean, what will happen? Like, what is the challenge that happens after the annihilation that you just mentioned?
The first challenge that we've seen before, Heather, is what we defeated Al-Qaeda in Iraq a few years ago, and then we withdrew. What happened is that the Shia militias backed by Iran came in. It triggered an uprising by Sunnis that was taken into advantage by ISIS. So we're going to make sure that those going to be in charge in those areas are going to be local Arab, Muslim, Sunni, who are not going to be creating the environment for the next jihadi group.
Yeah, but as you know, Walid, all of this is a lot easier said than done, because we've been attempting and trying to do this. So what makes me think, or what makes us think, that it will be different this time around?
It's to have the tools. Tool number one is to have enough troops on the ground to ensure that once those areas are evacuated, we are in control, and then we can bring in allies on the ground. And two, to have coalitions. And I think the trip by the president to the region and the rise of that coalition, we heard of 34,000 troops ready to help us. This is the challenge. This is the test.
And speaking of that, just quickly, let's listen to what the president had to say on that in Sicily. Listen.
You are the men and women who make up the most powerful military in the world. And under my administration, as you know, you've seen it, right? Under my administration, stronger and stronger every single day.
So exactly what you were just saying, and they have the backing of this administration. I want to move to a second point here, though. We've heard about bin Laden's son taking over leadership of Al-Qaeda. What do you think that means for us?
Look, if this was immediately after the death of bin Laden, I would say he could become a high symbol in the jihadi movement. He's going to become a high symbol, at least within Al-Qaeda. But meanwhile, over the past 3 to 4 years, you have the rise of ISIS. ISIS will be defeated, but their membership, their supporters, and other jihadists around the world, the movement has gone so big and much larger than before. He would play a role, but not the role that some analysts and some experts think he would.
So ISIS defeated, then Al-Qaeda rises back up to #1? Do you think that'll happen?
That's a great question. I am not sure. There are many people with different opinions. My opinion, and there will be a sort of a merge for a new organization, a new jihadi organization that will have the remnants of ISIS and some parts of Al-Qaeda as well. We've seen some of it around the world at this point in time.
I was going to say, as history would teach us, that does tend to happen. Walid Phares, thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you.